Hi, welcome to Skip's Corner, where I cover Nashville's baseball history and events and introduce you to players, coaches, and other fans. One of the things I get asked the most about Nashville and Sulphur Dell is if the New York Yankees ever played at Sulphur Dell. And yes, they did. A lot of the teams played in Nashville. It wasn't always known as Sulphur Dell. Before 1908, the Cubs played here. The Boston Red Sox played here. The Detroit Tigers played here. There were several teams that played here over the years. The teams would break spring training in Florida and head north on the train, and they always wanted to stop over to play usually a minor league team, or sometimes the two major league teams would play each other. 1927, after Sulphur Dell was reopened, it had been completely turned around. The New York Yankees and the St. Louis Cardinals came here to play a game as a repeat of the World Series the previous season, a World Series in which the Cardinals won over the Yankees. And the Cardinals won again on this particular day, too, 10-8. And Babe Ruth, the first time he came up to bat, hit a home run. Well, jump forward to 1942 when the Yankees came back to Nashville. In 1941, the Nashville Vols won 83 games and won the Southern Association playoffs to earn the right to play the Dallas Steers. They actually came in second place in the Southern Association to the Atlanta Crackers. And the Dallas had won the Texas League Championship, and they were to play in the Dixie Series. Nashville won that series 4-0, and it was the third consecutive Dixie playoff championship for manager Larry Gilbert. Gilbert had come to Nashville from New Orleans in November of 1938 to begin the 1939 season. And he set Nashville apart from other Southern Association teams by winning several championships. That 1941 season, Les Fleming hit an amazing .414 to take the Southern Association batting title. But attendance was declining in the minor leagues, mainly due to World War II. And it was important for these minor league teams to schedule major league teams as they traveled north from Florida. And so it was major news when the Vols announced that the Yankees would be coming to Nashville for not one, but two exhibition games with the Nashville Vols club. And the newspaper said the gate was to be split 50-50 between the clubs. The Yankees weren't going to come to Nashville for nothing. So Nashville was expecting a large crowd, and any funds that they raised at a game like this or two games like this that would help offset some of the expenses that would go on during the season. And actually, they were hoping that they would make enough to pay for their spring training season. The Yankees were coming off of an excellent season in 1941. They won 101 games and lost 53. And finished on top of the American League standings by a whopping 17 games over the second place Boston Red Sox. It was a great year for Joe DiMaggio. He had a .357 batting average, and he led the American League with 125 RBI and was named American League Most Valuable Player. The Yankees met the Brooklyn Dodgers in the World Series, and the Yankees disposed of them in 5 games for the World Series championship. So here we are on April the 4th, a Saturday in 1942, a disappointing crowd of around 3,500. The Yankees routed the Nashville Vols 10-1, as the Vols muster only 6 hits, while the Yankees collect a total of 15 against 3 Nashville pitchers. But there was a 3-run home run by Don Pulford, too. Charlie English hit a home run in the bottom of the 4th inning off of future Hall of Famer Lefty Gomez. And the Yankees lineup was pretty impressive, and it went like this. Leading off was Frank Crosetti at shortstop, Buddy Hassett, first base, Tommy Henrich, right field, Joe DiMaggio, center field, who had 3 hits in the game, including a double, Charlie Keller at left field, Joe Gordon, second base, Bill Dickey was the catcher, Jerry Pretty was the third base, and Gomez pitched 6 innings before Lindell relieved him in the 7th. I once met a man named Frank Duncan who was born in Nashville in 1920, and he told me he pitched for the Vols in the 9th inning of that game. He was called on by Larry Gilbert in the top of the 9th to face the first batter, who happened to be Joe DiMaggio. And with 2 strikes on the future Hall of Famer, he slung a fastball on the outside corner, striking him out. And Duncan was gleaming with pride when he told that story, and I don't blame him. That's a pretty good story to tell your grandchildren. He was 22 years old and had a 10-month-old child, and sadly he passed away in 2008. But I'm glad to have that story, and glad to have known Frank Duncan. Who else could tell a story about striking out Joe DiMaggio? The next day, Sunday, they played another game, and the Yankees defeated the Vols 11-6 under a barrage of 18 hits. But the crowd was almost double the previous day. There were 8,000 Sulphur Dell fans on hand. Tommy Henrich, Charlie Keller, and Joe DiMaggio hit home runs. That must have been a thrilling time to see Joe DiMaggio hit that homer. And John Drebinger from the New York Times reported that the outfield here is sharply terraced, and the long clouds of DiMaggio, Keller, and Gordon had the Vol outfielders scampering up the slopes like mountain goats. Now, that's the first time I have read that players were called mountain goats or referred to by mountain goats, but I've heard it since then that that's something that people remember being said, that players had to play the outfield, particularly the right field outfield, with 1 foot above the other on the grass because of the slope, and they had to get themselves ready for a ball that was hit to them. Sad note to the end of that story, Joe McCarthy, Yankees manager, had to leave for Philadelphia immediately after the game when he found out his brother had passed away. And it would be Joe DiMaggio's last season for 3 years until 1946, as early in 1943, he enlisted in the Army. And I have not been able to find a report of the gate receipts for the 2 games. But at the end of the season, Nashville won the pennant, but not the Southern Association playoffs, and attendance that season was down 96,900, I think, to just over 97,000 in 1941. I had an email from someone about 10 years ago. I don't recall his name, but he, in his email, said that he was a great nephew, maybe, of a man named Gus Dugas, who played in the outfield for Nashville Vols beginning in 1939 and played in this game in 1942. And undoubtedly, he or his wife had a color movie camera, and he taken pictures of not only portions of the game, but a parade before the game. And since it's in color, we can tell that the Isaac Litton high school band marches in the outfield, probably after they have played the national anthem, and then the Central High School band also played, and newspaper reports tell about that. And this film is very grainy, and it's also got some rough edges around it. It wasn't stored properly, and like I said, I don't think it was spliced together very well. But it's a treasure for me. I offered to pay. It was there was no response about paying, and I'm not even sure whatever happened to the fellow that gave that to me. But I've showed that at a couple of civic organizations, and I certainly would be happy to do that again if opportunity comes about. It's holding on to treasures like that that we need to be able to have to tell the story of Sulphur Dell and Nashville baseball and other things. That's one of the problems researching Negro League's history, is because the sports writers in the Nashville newspapers or other newspapers didn't go out and report the games. And I give a little commentary here about ballparks. I had a friend who posted on his Facebook page, actually I think it was for the Rickwood Field Facebook, that Hank Aaron Stadium, which was home to the Mobile Bay Bears in Mobile for many years, was going to be turned in maybe to a Topgolf, which is great that it's being repurposed, but baseball ballparks are hard to come by. And when we tear baseball parks down, it's really a commentary on baseball as an enterprise in most cases. There are 3 things needed to play a game, I've said before: a bat, a ball, and a location. And the powerful use the need of a ballpark to capitalize on fans' love of the game. And then they abandon the concept when times get hard. And thank goodness for the folks like the Friends of Rickwood, who maintain its innocence, where kids and adults can play, watch, and remember. Rickwood Field was the home to the the Birmingham Barons, and also the Negro Leagues, Birmingham Black Barons, still in existence. They play a lot of games there every year. And it's a wonderful, marvelous facility, such as the Old Timers Complex at Shelby Park in East Nashville, where old Shelby number 1 and Shelby number 2 are still in existence. Mickey Hyder, who takes care of those fields and has done a wonderful job revitalizing them, actually. Shelby number 1 is home to a lot of baseball teams in the Nashville area. And Shelby number 2, he turned it completely around and built a outfield fence and grandstand. It's just a marvelous facility. And Shelby Park, the Old Timers Baseball Complex, is really an international facility because travel teams come in not only from the United States but other parts of the country to play ball. And I think that's a great thing because I'm not sure there are too many places to play ball in Nashville. Some of the parks, for example, some of the high schools won't let anybody use their field. Some will, but that's great, but some won't. But anyway, I kind of digressed a little bit. I just feel like, we've let Sulphur Dell and we've let Herschel Greer Stadium get away from us when they could have been turned into something useful. Now, yes, Sulphur Dell has been revitalized. That area has been revitalized with First Tennessee Park. The Sounds, we give them a lot of credit for that. Frank Ward has done a terrific job in revitalizing that area, which only 10 years ago was a desolate area, and we can now see how thriving that is. The field is not right exactly where Sulphur Dell was, but it overlaps a little bit, and there's a testament to that, I think. But we tore down Herschel Greer Stadium, and now there's a giant field down at the foot of Fort Negley that could have been used maybe for a youth park of some sort, a greenway, maybe ball fields and soccer fields. I know Cal Ripken is a former Major League player, has a company that goes around and puts parks in like that at Myrtle Beach and some other areas. And it's too bad that Nashville doesn't have that. People want to come to Nashville, and when they do, they want to come play baseball if there's a place to play, like Shelby Park has done for so many teams over the years. Well, I'm sorry to have digressed. I hope you enjoyed the story about the New York Yankees coming to Nashville in Sulphur Dell in 1942. I want to, before I go, acknowledge my nephew, David Nipper, who is an engineer and sound engineer, works for K-Love, does a marvelous job there, and he takes care of me in helping me and encouraging me for this podcast. And he's helped me with equipment and sound and the music. He's a wonderful songwriter as well. So, David, thank you. And I want to say, if you enjoy this, to send me an email. You can do that at 262downright@gmail.com, 262downright. 262 feet was the length from home plate to the right field fence down the foul line at Old Sulphur Dell. So 262downright@gmail.com. Or you can go to Baseball in Nashville on the contact. Click on that contact. You can fill out a little form there and send it to me. I'd love to know your opinion. I'd love to know what you'd like for me to talk about, what you are interested in about Nashville's baseball history. I've already had people send me notes about talking about the old Tri-State League and the old City League, which were either semi-pro or amateur leagues for adults to play. And there were leagues, those were back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, I think even into the early 70s. But back in the early part of the 20th century, there was the Industrial League and the Old Timers League, and there was the Volunteer League. So there were plenty of leagues and plenty of places for people to play. And usually the home park was Sulphur Dell, but not just Sulphur Dell. There were plenty of other places to play around. Centennial Park, there were fields there as well. So if you'll send me a note, you can also find me at Mr. Sulphur Dell, Mr. Sulphur Dell on Twitter and also on Instagram. And on Facebook, I am either Skip Dipper on a Facebook page or Skip Dipper on a profile page. And on Twitter, I'm also Mr. Sulphur Dell or Skip's Corner. Skip's Corner also on Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your thoughts and your opinions, especially your opinions, and tell me what you want to hear about. So until next time, this is Skip Dipper, and I hope you'll come back again.